This video is sponsored by the Guardians Guild.
Oh hey, how's it going? Today's video, I'm gonna show you how I built this watering can planter. Now it doesn't actually pour water, that was a joke. I do have free plans in the description of this video. High quality, super easy to follow plans. So if you wanna watch this video and build along with me, go ahead and check those out. I built this entire thing using only 1.5 fence pickets, so super cheap, easy to make. Use it as a decoration, sell it, plant a little flower in here, whatever you wanna do. That actually looks pretty good with the plant inside of it. So let's go ahead and start building it.
All right, so for this build, like I said, I'm only going to be using 1.5 fence pickets. You could also get away building this entire thing out of scrap wood if you want. I'm actually building this out of 1 fence picket and a piece of scrap I had in the shop. So first up, we're gonna take that first fence picket and cut 6 9-inch pieces from it. And after I'm done cutting all those, I should have 1 of these longer pieces left over and 6 of these 9-inch planks. So now we're gonna head over to the table saw, gonna raise the blade all the way up so I can get the angle correct on it. I'm using this Klein digital angle gauge. There's a link in the description if you guys wanna check it out. It's made it a lot easier for me to cut bevels on the table saw like this. I'm gonna set it to 74.9 degrees. That's just to make sure that even if the table saw is a little bit off, I still favor the outer angle so that we get a nice tight seam when we glue everything up together. I'm going to set the fence at 2 inches from the bottom of the blade. Then I'm going to cut 2 of these planks from each 9-inch plank. So in total, we should have 12 of these beveled smaller planks from the 6 planks that we cut originally. And since this is a YouTube video, I'm going to speed this process up so you guys don't have to sit here and spend your valuable time watching me cut 12 of these little planks. So just going to knock all these out real quick here, making sure that the angles are oriented the right direction, basically facing in towards each other. I got a little distracted here. The light from underneath the garage door was bouncing up and making me look like I had some crazy looking eyebrows. Anyways, moving on here, I'm just using this tenoning jig, clamping it to the fence to act as a stop block. You can just use any scrap piece of wood. Basically, I'm going to use a small, simple crosscut sled that I built in a separate video. Going to reset the table saw blade to right at 90 degrees and then raise it so it's sticking up about 5/16 of an inch from the top of the crosscut sled. Then I'm going to adjust the table saw fence so that it's 5/8 of an inch from the edge of the crosscut sled. And the reason for this is because we're going to cut a rabbet on the bottom of each of these small planks. This is what we're going to insert the bottom of the watering can into. And since we are using fence pickets, we need the rabbet to be 5/8 of an inch deep, cutting about halfway through the plank, just like I'm showing here. We're only going to do one side, so I'm going to work my way through all 12 of these pieces. Since I don't have a dado stack installed, I'm just using my regular table saw blade. Just going to make small passes and create each of these rabbets for each 12 of these small planks. If you're a woodworker like me, just trying to get better at your craft, build some cool stuff, or maybe even make a little money from it, you'll probably like the Guardians Guild. It's a community I put together for people who love working with their hands. We've got build plans, tips, tool giveaways, and honest lessons that I have learned the hard way. No fluff, no hype, just real help for real woodworkers. We're opening the doors again very soon to everyone who's on the waitlist, and you can join that waitlist for free at guardianwoodworking.com/join. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in, go ahead, head over, check it out. Hopefully, I'll see you there. Once I get all those knocked out, I'm going to pull out my chisels and just smooth out any of the edges since I'm not using a flat grind table saw blade. I'm gonna have some of these ridges left over, so just using my chisel, gonna flatten all the rabbets out, make sure I get a nice 90-degree angle inside. You don't have to be too picky here. Obviously, the more picky you are, the nicer that bottom of the watering can is gonna fit. After I get that taken care of, I'm gonna move on to doing a dry fit. I'm gonna pull out some of this painter's tape, pull out 2 strips here, and then I'm going to just, pretty self-explanatory here, line up as closely as I can all of these small planks, making sure that they're all facing the same direction so the gaps are facing up. And once I get all the planks inserted as closely as I can together, I'm just going to take that blue tape and wrap it around on itself, making sure that all the angles are correct, looking good. I get a nice tight fit. You definitely want to try this out before you add any glue. If you add glue and you find out that all the angles are off, well, that's just gonna be a disaster. So highly recommend doing a dry fit here, just making sure everything lines up. It should look something like this. And would you look at that? I love it when a plan comes together. So now that I've ensured that everything fits together and it's looking crispy, I know some of you guys love it when I use that word, I'm going to add glue to every groove before wrapping it back up on itself. Now, notice how I said every groove. I missed a groove here, so what I thought was going to be a really easy, simple glue up, I somehow found a way to just make it a lot harder on myself. I didn't put glue in one of the seams, and I forgot to put glue on the two seams that meet up together. So I missed two completely. So I had to open it back up, add glue to the outside seams, but I still didn't know about the inside seam. Had to take it apart again, add glue to the inside. It just kind of all became a big mess. So hopefully you guys can learn from my mistake here. Make sure you got every single seam covered in glue. It's better to use too much than too little here. You know, a little squeeze out is good. And yours should go a lot smoother than mine went here. I did try using this Bessie strap clamp to pull everything together and make it a little bit tighter. It ended up just adding more pressure in one area and it wasn't gluing up correctly. So honestly, just as tightly as you can without ruining the shape of the circle. Just wrap some more painter's tape around it and this worked just fine. I got a really nice tight seam all the way around. Went around and cleaned up all the squeeze out with a damp rag, and then it was time to move on to the next step. So now taking that leftover piece from the picket we cut at the beginning of the video, I'm going to create the handle and the spout for this watering can. First though, I'm just going to sand it over real quick. This is going to make it a little bit easier to sand later. I'm just using some 80 grit. You can get away with 120 grit too. I just wanted to speed it up. 80 grit gets rid of all that rough texture you normally see on a fence picket. Then just using whatever I could in the shop. Here I'm just using some tape to give me a nice curved shape here. Just gonna sketch out a little handle. Spent just a couple minutes making something that I was pretty happy with. Feel free to make your own design or copy mine here. After that, working on the spout, I'm just using my speed square here to get a 35-degree angle so that I could reference how it was gonna sit on the bucket. Just drawing a very rudimentary shape here. Just using the tape for a nice circle reference. Pulled out the jigsaw and then roughed out all the shapes, just going a hair outside of those sketch lines that I made on the wood. With both of those shapes roughed out with the jigsaw, it's starting to look like an elephant. Or a watering can. You be the judge. You can sand these by hand now to clean up the shapes, make them look a little bit smoother around the edges. Or if you got a spindle sander, pull that thing out. It speeds it up a lot. But if you don't have a spindle sander, no worries. Hand sanding is just fine. Little extra elbow grease never hurt anybody. So now that the glue up's all dry, I'm going to take all the painter's tape off, and then I'm going to start working on the bottom of this watering can to fit inside of that rabbit groove that we cut out earlier. So this is where you use another fence picket or a piece of scrap wood if you have one. Basically, we're just going to trim off the factory edge here, and we're going to cut 2 planks at 8.5 to 9 inches. Basically, they just have to be longer than the bottom of the watering can, since this is going to sit inside. I'm going to take them over to the table saw and just shave a hair off one of the sides. That way we get a nice straight edge for the glue up. And then I'm going to line them up the best way I can. These do cup a little bit, so kind of got to finagle with them a little bit. I've had the most luck using these pipe clamps here for any fence picket glue ups. They just seem to hold them together better, keep them from bowing. Gonna add a little bit of this Titebond 3 to the inside edges, press them together, squeeze them nice and tight with those pipe clamps, and then we're gonna set it off to the side and let that glue dry. It does dry pretty quick. Within, 30 to 45 minutes, you should be good to pull the clamps off. But depending on how, humid it is in your shop, this time can vary. While I'm waiting for the glue to dry, I'm going to take the sander out. My wife wanted me to keep the sharper edges on the barrel, so I made sure not to round it over. But you definitely could, round this out to be more of a, circular bucket look. I'm using a 4-inch hole saw here to make a circle for the mouth of the watering can. If you don't have a hole saw, you can definitely just, trace a roll of tape, use a jigsaw, and get a circle that way as well. I'm also sanding the mouth, the spout, and the handle at this point, rounding over all the edges. If you have a router table, you can use that. I currently don't have one quite yet, so I'm actually working on some plans to build one in the near future. But I'm just doing some quick hand sanding here just to smooth everything over. Once those 2 planks we glued up are dry, I'm going to take them out of the clamps, take a chisel, just scrape off any of the squeeze out. I'm just going to try to flatten them out as best I can. I know there is a little bit of cupping, and this is just an outdoor watering can planter, so I'm not going to be too picky, but I do want it to look nice. I always say, if you're going to build something, you might as well build it pretty. So now taking the barrel that we made, putting it on those 2 planks we glued up, I'm going to trace out the inside edge of the barrel. I'm also going to mark the top in a couple places and the plank in the same places so I can position the bottom piece exactly where I traced it on the barrel. If you don't have a bandsaw, no worries, just use a jigsaw and just cut a little bit outside those trace lines you just made. A bandsaw can make quick work of this, but again, you can definitely get by without having one. So once I got the shape roughed out on the bandsaw or the jigsaw, I'm going to take it over to my oscillating belt sander, or if you don't have one, a palm sander, again, works just as well. And I'm going to just creep up on those pencil lines and then test fit throughout until I get a nice fit and it slides in well. I did come in a little bit too far on a few of these lines, but it's the bottom. You're not going to see it. It's going to be just fine. So now punching that out, we're going to glue it up. Just add some glue to the inside of that rabbit edge, and then we're going to push the bottom plate into place. You can clamp it down if you want. Mine had a pretty snug fit, so I didn't really think I needed to clamp it. It was holding just fine, and it should look something like this. To attach the handles and the spout and the mouth, I'm just going to trace around where I want it to sit, and then mark a couple places where I'm going to pre-drill the holes. I really didn't want to split the wood in this case, and I'm going to be using some 1 5/8 inch deck screws. So I'm going to pre-drill on the watering can and on the handle, add a little bit of glue, and then using my driver, drive a couple screws into place. Going to do the same thing with the spout on the front. Just mark where I want it to sit, pre-drill a hole on the can and on the spout, and add a 1 5/8 inch deck screw. To attach the mouth, I'm just using some wood glue and some 1 1/4 inch 18 gauge brad nails. Gonna tack it into place, and then just take my sander, smooth out the bottom, hand sand the top, smooth out the edges, add a little wood filler where that hole was when I cut the mouth. Then I'm gonna use this spar urethane. This is oil based, and I'm going to just coat the entire watering can, inside, outside, spout, handle, everything. This is optional. Cedar is great outdoors as it is, but if you want to extend the life of your planter and a little bit more of a richer color, you can use something like teak oil or spar urethane, as I'm using in this case. Now, if you are going to plant something in here, I would recommend drilling some holes in the bottom to allow water to drain out. Also, I would add a liner on the inside so the dirt is not directly up against the wood. Since this isn't held together with anything but glue, putting a liner inside is definitely going to add to the life of this planter.
All right, guys, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video and don't want to miss other free plans I put out on this channel, be sure to like, subscribe, share. It really helps me out. It allows me to do more free stuff just like this. So also check out the Guardians Guild in the description below. I've also got that 10% mask discount to the base camp mask in the description below. Helps the channel out. Also protect your lungs. Very important. I think that's about it. So see you guys in the next video.